Hello and welcome to the second day of Christmas here on Jorgy Stripping the Dipping podcast. I'm your unusual co-host F1 Blag, and have we got an episode for you today? We're reflecting on our favourite guests from season 2. In fact, we had a guest co-host on this episode, Colin Johnston. Look him up, CJ Grand Prix on Twitter, fantastic guy. And he had the privilege of interviewing a certain Mario Andretti. So today, on the second day of Christmas, Jorgy gave to us 2 Mario Andretti stories. Enjoy.
So I had Colin Chapman sitting in the wings, that he had promised me that if whenever I thought I was ready to take a crack at Formula One, he said they would have a car for me. He promised me that in '65 when I finished third behind Jim Clark at Indianapolis. And so here again, that was in my head to try to get to that point. And in '68, I said, Colin, I would like to do the last 2 races of the season. And sure enough, he said, Mario, I will have a car for you. And we had a test in Monza, but my first actual race was at Watkins Glen. Because in Monza, I did test and I qualified, but they won't let me start because of the 24-hour rule, because I qualified during the first practice session on Friday. Then I had to fly to the States and race a dirt track race in Indianapolis, actually, because I was going for the championship, so I couldn't give up, the points, and then fly back. And even though we had a deal with the promoters there, and they would waive the 24-hour rule. There was a protest, and so they did not let me start. So my
welcome to Formula
One. But so my first goal was at Watkins Glen, for the USP. And I never actually seen the play. I never raced there before, but the car really, that Lotus 49 really felt good to me.
I was going to ask you about that because it's perceived now to be such a historic step forward in Grand Prix car design. At the time, did it feel like that? Did it really feel like a step above what you were used to racing in single seaters?
It was fabulous. It was like I was born in it, because I'll tell you why. Because up to that point, my experience in road racing at that level was basically sports prototypes, with heavier car and all that. And the other was in Indy cars, which, before that I had won some of the road races in IndyCar, but an IndyCar is more of a versatile vehicle. Basically, it's much heavier because of the ovals and all that, and braking and that. But when I first sat in the Formula One car in Monza, I said, I think I died and went to heaven. And it was just that it felt so right.
Yeah.
I said, and I, tried to really put my arms around her as much as I could, and that. But I said, I feel good about it. And it paid me off, because I surprised myself, quite honestly, at Watkins Glen, because next to me was Jackie Stewart, and I was on pole. So, like I said, I was surprised anyone, but pleasantly surprised. So it was a great beginning for me.
Fantastic. And so we're sticking with Formula One. You moved on in 1970 was the Works March. There was a few Formula One races with them, wasn't there? And then for 70, then for 71 to Ferrari.
Ferrari, yes.
As a works driver, when did the connection with the Ferrari works first happen? When did you first meet Enzo Ferrari?
I first met Enzo Ferrari in Monza in 1969 when I was teamed up with Chris Amon in a sports prototype in 1,000 Ks. in Monza, and here again, I expressed my desire to, do maybe some Formula One, and in those days, quite honestly, because of my contracts, I was offered especially after I'll go back. I was offered a full ride by Colin Chapman in 1969 after I did a couple of races in '68, and guess I couldn't do it, and guess who took my ride? Emerson Fittipaldi. He becomes world champion a couple of years later. Anyway, but I again, it was just one of those things because of my commitments here in the States, and financially, I just couldn't make that move at the time. And but I was going in the right direction. I says, there's going to be a time when I'm going to devote, my full time to Formula One, and it took a bit longer than I really wanted to in that sense. But all of a sudden, I'm 35 years old in 1975, and I said, got to do it now.
It's time. Yeah,
it's time. And it worked out. It worked out good.
It worked out well. Oh dear. Well, here, something I noticed today. You're quite prolific on Twitter, and it's lovely to see. Not least, we're getting close to the festive season, and it's not Christmas until Mario Andretti shares his Christmas tree with the world. But I noticed today you retweeted a lovely photograph of you and James Hunt.
Exactly.
Let me see if I can bring it up. Actually, it's
lovely.
And I saw it just as I was getting ready to come on here. Great memory, great friend. Here's to you, James. I thought that was lovely. Just off the back of that, is there any fond memories of James you could share? I'm sure plenty of fond memories of James. Is there anything suitable for our audience that you could share?
Yeah. I mean, off the track, a different way during travel and all that. It was fun. He was one of those individuals that he was just easy to be with and fun to be with in every way, and never took things too seriously at the time like that. So I enjoy that. I enjoy that part very, very much. While we were on the racetrack, we tried to kill each other, but then you see right after that, we'd have a beer together. So that's the way it should be.
That's the way motor racing should be. And of course, then the day that James secured his world championship, 76, it's quite often overlooked, the fact that you had that tremendous win at Fuji that day. And I guess in a way it was the start of the rise of Lotus again, at the end of that sort of development season. That was a fantastic win you had in 76. And it was around that time they were already working on sort of the ground effect principle. Lotus were heading that way.
No, not really, actually. But here's the thing, though. I mean, in 76, the way Colin and I came together is the team, the Parnelli Jones team that I was driving for, they decided to pull out Formula One at Long Beach, like the second race of the season. And unbeknownst to me, by the way. And the day after the race, I was having breakfast at the Queensway Hilton. It was, just right out, one of the hotels outside the track. And the next couple tables down was Colin all by himself. And we were both, basically, I keep saying, with a chin in our socks, just commiserating, a terrible weekend. And so I joined him and we started talking. And I said, Colin, I'm out of a ride now. I said, I was told just before the race, but one of the announcers, Chris Economaki, says, Mario, what's your reaction on the fact that they're pulling out of Formula One? I said, oh my God, I didn't know. Anyway, so he said, Mario said, I wish I had a decent car to give you. He said, I had the worst weekend of my career just this yesterday. And so I said, Colin, if you'll have me, we'll make the car. We'll get it working. We'll do better. And sure enough, he that's it. I joined him, and the best thing could have happened, for me because I think that the good thing here for me was the fact that I got Colin to really just concentrate on the racing. At the time, he had so many distractions, building the car business. He had a boat business and all that. And I said, you have to delegate the responsibilities here. I said, you have to come back racing. And his dear wife, Hazel, said, Mario. I said, that's the boy. So I'm glad you told him that, and here it is, whenever you got Colin to really concentrate on his racing, that's the time you wanted to be driving for him. Yeah. So that's the time when he created several world champions, as we know.
Yes.
So he had the peaks and valleys, he was, sometimes he had a tendency to get bored, when things were really going so well.
It was going so well,
yeah. But again, it was, fortune of my life, to be able to be with him at this period. And again, this it's really an interesting story how the ground effects actually was something of, it happened out of, when I was driving for the March, it was 721 in 1970, if the car had side pods.
Oh, yes. Well, the undercut underneath.
Side pods. Because Robin Herd was, he was aerodynamicist, by trade, as a professor. And so anyway, he was looking at all the different aspects of it. And I remember I was testing in South Africa, and I'm looking and I'm thinking we're at altitude, less power and all that. So I'm thinking, I wonder if those side pods actually create frontal area. And so we decided to take them off. I was driving the Vince Granatelli team, actually. And here I'm going, and all of a sudden I'm flying the front end. So that means they were giving me some downforce. So actually we had to put a lot more wing level in the front, so it negated, what we thought we were gaining. Yeah. And at the end of the year, we were at Hethel and just sort of, throwing things, brain, storming. And I brought this up about the March. I said, with these pods, I said, if you have, and these were relatively short. Yeah. If you look at the side angle, the car on the side angle. So I said, you could probably increase the length of it from wheelbase to inside the wheelbase, and then, but they had no fences, to direct the airflow, and they put the fences as far down as you can, and you maintain the flow, you direct it, and so obviously we were getting definite effect out of this, but not until we were testing in Hockenheim. Testing in Hockenheim at the I think it was called a Bosch curve that connected the two long straightaways. It was a long right-hander, and I remember testing. As the car, obviously you get quite a bit of leaning to the left, which means I was closing the gap. Yes. On the side pod, and all of a sudden I was gaining quite a bit of downforce in the middle of the corner. And so I said to Colin, I said, there's something going on here that's actually good. So I explained that. So he sent some of one of the mechanics in town to buy some strips of plastic. So we bolted this plastic on there. I said, ooh, la la. All of a sudden, we're getting quite a bit better, more downforce. But of course, 2 laps later, the plastic, would wear off.
Wears away.
You lose it. And that's why if you look at during the 77 season, at one point we had bristles like,
Yes.
Yeah. Like we were sweeping the track. So the reason we did that, because at least there was not as much effect, but it was constant.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
the season progressed. Then he came up with the movable skirts, and that was the trick.
Yeah.
And so that's how this thing just started developing. And then the other thing that's interesting actually here is that they were wind tunneling the car, and we were getting erroneous data out of it. It was not repeating on the track for me. So Colin, the brilliant as he is, he's the one that developed the moving road. Yeah, with
Yes.
the belt
In the wind tunnel. Yeah.
in the wind tunnel, and that was a whole new deal. As far as really getting the correct data, to be able to do all the right things, and opening up and the diffuser and diffuser angles, and this the whole thing. So it was a work in progress, in 7. And so it was so much fun, to just be part of all that. And again, but that's Colin.
And then in 78, perfection with the Lotus 79, it just detailed, and
everything was cleaned up, we had indoor brakes in the 78, and so to be able to have a better flow, when the exit of the diffuser, that brought the brakes inside much closer to the gearbox, which created a problem for us because we were getting so much heat transfer from the gearbox, and the Lotus 79, and actually we had brake issues at every race. Ronnie and I, and we tried to tell Colin, and then he would check the brake. Oh, there's nothing wrong. And once you come in, if you
it comes down.
What's wrong with them? You guys are crazy, So some of the things were not perfect, but nevertheless.
Thank you for listening to the 12 Days of Christmas here at Jorgy Stripping the Dipping. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Strip the Dip, where we'd love to hear from you. Merry Christmas.